Welcome one, welcome all. This is the last NASCAR show of the year. We are 1 week away exactly from Sunday NFL football. If you had a great time today, maybe enjoying your Sunday without the NFL, without the stress of it, well, we're here to give you a little bit of a sweat with DFS. And speaking of sweats, real quick, stats. You all had a sweat in DP World Tour, I saw. Did that end up holding or anything?
I don't know. I've been getting the updates from JBC, so I don't know if it held.
There is, I saw the lineup y'all had, which is, if you don't know, JVC was winning $50,000 in DP World Tour. Yep, the DP World Tour, not PGA Tour. And there was a great lineup with, Tristan Wallace. I know that y'all had him, and yeah, he's in the lead by a few strokes now. I've been watching my morning that way, and now I'm ready to kind of talk about NASCAR, watch a little bit of Notre Dame later on, and have a great time ahead of us, Stats. But how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, dude. It's it's a busy Sunday, but this is the last of the. It's only going to get busier. Let's just put it that way on these Sundays. And unfortunately, it's our last show of the season. We got the playoffs starting today for NASCAR, which is fun, and at a great track. I mean, one of the premier tracks in all of NASCAR, Darlington. It should be an exciting race. I mean, we've got a history here. We could go, if we want, we could just dive into like kind of what we expect on a race like this. I mean, we get long. You're going to have less cautions typically here than maybe the average. I think it's about 8.5 cautions are averaged on during the Cup Series, and then we've got about 7 is the average here. So it is slightly less. But because you've got to kind of take a high line here, and you'll hear about the Darlington stripes and all that during the broadcast. That's because you've got the best line typically is up near the wall. This is an abrasive track. The tires wear down here quite easily. That's why running the high side tends to be the best strategy and the best line to take. So those guys who are typically veterans, guys like Denny Hamlin, who are really good at saving tires. Denny is the favorite, of course, in this race. He starts on the pole, so there'll be a lot of interest on Denny. But, tire wear, pit strategies. I mean, typically these guys are going to be going in there for four tire stops because the tires are so important. They're coming in with the same tires that they did here in the spring, so keep that in mind as well. And I think what we really want to do, I mean, I'm going to look at the practice times a bit, but we're going to have different race conditions here. We're racing at night. This race starts after 6 o'clock, probably about 6:30 or so. It's going to be different race conditions than what they practiced in, but I still want to take a look at the practice times, especially kind of like to see if anyone got faster or slower as the long runs progress, because we can expect a lot of long green flag runs. So we want to look to that, and really track history, especially in the next gen packages here. Is going to be really important. So also, if you're looking for correlations, I mean, Darlington really fits well with most of the intermediate and a lot of the short tracks, which tells me because there's high correlation with a lot of other tracks, we're going to tend to get chalky type of finishes here. So, or chalky outcomes in the optimal. I'll give you a couple more things. We've seen you tend to get a lot of laps led, a lot of dom points from the driver starting up near the front. And we have historically seen 2 to 3 top 10-ish drivers make it into the optimal lineup. So on average, you probably have about 2 drivers in the top 10 with 4 place differentials. We've also seen in the last the last 7 times we've had someone lead more than 100 laps. In 3 of those, they did not make the optimal. So in 3 of those times, that driver wrecked out of the race, finished 30th or worse. So it's happened where we've had someone really dom this race 3 times out of 7 and not make it into the optimal. So when we're looking at this and we're like, okay, you've got certain drivers that we really like to dom, and you could get. We've seen drivers here with 250 laps led. I mean, Byron, I think, had 243 laps led here. I forget. I don't know if it was the last time out. I think it might have been last time out, but you could get someone out front and really take a lot of those down points. But like I said, it doesn't always necessarily guarantee us, because The line that you have to run here at Darlington, running up at the wall, real easy, and you blow a tire really easily here at Darlington as well, and that's going to end your race. So it's not a lock if you're sitting there and Denny just comes out, leads the first 50, 60 laps. Not a lock that he's going to be in the optimal.
Well said there, Stats. You're right. 243 laps led for William Byron. He was obviously the top scorer of that slate, the second place finish, and it was Denny Hamlin who got first place here and only led 10 laps. So just shows that, it can be a late run from Denny Hamlin. I think this kind of began the run where Hamlin, with his tire saving abilities, I think the pit strategy is so important too, especially for fastest laps. You see that from time and time again on these tracks where the tires matter so much that, if you're too late coming in, you can really tank your DFS performance. Right? None of these drivers care about the DFS performance. I'm just talking about they're trying to take a chance that there's a late caution and then they can kind of flip, maybe go from 10th to 3rd or even 2nd or hell first. Because, some of these guys, everyone will pit in that instance where you're kind of praying for that Hail Mary there. But it can lead to a lot of fast laps if you're the last one to come in. Same thing. You can kind of undercut some drivers there if you're one of the first ones to come in. I know that Denny Hamlin usually likes to stay out a little bit, have fresher tires, and then try and track down the guys ahead of him with his better tire wear. I mean, that's what Denny Hamlin does. Starting on pole though is going to be a great thing. Obviously 11K. We'll talk about him in a second. HB cards. Hate the NFL takes over and nothing exists, but I get it. Yeah, I mean, it's just tough, man. This is definitely the last show of the year, but still covered greatly in the Run Pure Sports website. We got a great promo code running around right now, and apparently you can get a great deal if you DM Big T. He has said that if you DM him, you can get a great deal, and he'll give you a great promo code not only for NFL and stuff, but all the other sports that we have to offer. I know Stats. You're going to be sweating FanDuel MLB lock. For those who don't know, that's in 50 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah. When I log in the morning and check out what the slate looks like for the day, I'm like, I hope it's not a 1 o'clock MLB main. And then I see the 12 o'clock main for FanDuel, and I'm like, oh God, they're really screwing me here. So, but we'll get it all taken care of, and we'll get everything in.
We had F1 in the morning, and those who didn't track it, Isaac Hadjar got a podium. The Racing Bulls get a podium finisher. Verstappen got second, and Piastri won. Lando Norris went out with an engine problem, and that championship lead is greatly been exaggerated now. Piastri is now the clear favorite for the title. But we're here to talk about some NASCAR Cup Series. You had the 1-2 finishers, Denny Hamlin and William Byron last week. They lead the 11K and 10.7K. They're the top salary dogs. You got Kyle Larson, who has just been really underwhelming. I mean, I just don't think there's a way around it. He's been really underwhelming for almost 3 months now. Ryan Blaney, he starts 12th. I mean, he can run okay in these instances. I think the one guy that's going to kind of be a little bit of a wild card for me is Tyler Reddick. He looked good last time he was here. Was this the race where he had a late lead and there was like a late caution that kind of really did him in? I'm trying to think if that was the correct race, but Tyler Reddick led 42 laps in the April race here. He's going to be good at 9.7K, but he's one I'm just struggling with because you mentioned wanting to play guys at the top. You do have Denny Hamlin starting on pole, which you said. I mean, it doesn't guarantee success. You could lead a little bit of laps early on, but there's also the 11K metric where if you only led 70 laps, there is no guarantees in the top 3 scorers, which you have to be at 11K. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting stats. What are you doing with this stud range? I mean, Chase Briscoe has been a qualifying beast as well. I think you have a ton of options, and no one, I mean, outside Chase Elliott, can be considered a PD play at all.
No, that's true. Yeah, and we're going to get a lot of ownership, I think, at this level, at this basically from 9,500 from Elliott up. I think you're going to see significant ownership. Maybe Bell being the odd man here left out with the least amount of ownership, starts 7th. But yeah, you've got to start with Denny. Look, he's the favorite with good reason, has had a lot of success here, won this race here back in the spring. Last year was a 4th and a 7th, has a 2nd back in 2022. So it's really only one clunker was in 2023 in this race, the 2nd race of the year at this track. So you've got to trust Denny. And like I was saying earlier with what we've seen in those 3 out of the 7 times where the Dom or someone who's led more than 100 laps or more in three of those last seven incidences, we didn't have that person make the optimal. I think with Denny, I feel a little bit more secure because he kind of, he knows how to drive. We've talked about he knows how to kind of conserve the tires. I feel a little safer that he's not going to blow out his tires like maybe some of these other guys who may be pushing it a little too hard. So I would say I give him a bump up, and I think that's why the market has him as the favorite here. So while I think you have to take, I don't think you get all in. I don't see an all in driver here. Denny would probably be the closest thing to, I think, the number one driver. He'll probably get the most ownership, and I just don't know if it warrants kind of a shove, which I do like to do on a lot of these. You kind of like to find a driver that I can shove with. I just think there's too much risk. I love doing it more, obviously, with the big place differential guy as opposed to the guy starting up top. Because like we said, you can lead a bunch of laps and still wreck out of this thing and not make it. So, but I think clearly Denny is the best option. If you saw, I put some bets out early today, and I do like William Byron here, and he's plus 700 over at BetMGM. Had the best price on him. I do like Byron starting 11th. I think he can obviously dom points here, just outside the top 10. Like I said, historically we've had 2 to 3 drivers in this range from the top 10. We'll throw 11th in there as well. You do get the added benefit of some place differential, but he's probably going to have to dom a bit, and it's going to be tough to get both a Hamlin and a Byron in there. Could happen, but likely we're going to get just one. And if that's the case, then that extra place differential with Byron, maybe the nod. Maybe Denny just doesn't have a strong finish here. Maybe he wrecks out. But I think Byron's got a good chance to also get some dom points here for us. So Byron's probably my favorite driver here on the day. Outside of, obviously, Denny's the guy here, but Byron would be my next guy. Larson, you said Larson's been kind of disappointing all year, but man, you gotta like him here. Even though in the spring race wrecked out of that one 37th, but last year at this same race finished 4th. The same race in 2023 he won. He's a guy who loves riding up along the wall, but because of that, you've got that risk reward with Larson. So chances that he does run into the wall, scrapes himself up, damages that car, that possibility is there. He's pretty good at saving tires though as well. Larson's I think he's a good GPP type of play. So I think Larson is going to get some ownership. I think it's difficult here, but I think you can take 3 of these guys in the top, and then you're going to have to play more of a stars and scrubs if you're going to take 3 of these guys who are higher priced. But there's a lot of them starting up near the top. I mean, you got Reddick also. The guy won. He came in 3rd here, back-to-back 3rd place finishes at this track. You look interesting. His 2025 intermediate track driver rating has not been as good as some of the other drivers here in this range. Pretty much the top 4 guys salary-wise are the top 4 guys this year on intermediate tracks by a pretty far margin. And then there's a big drop-off once you get to Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick. But Reddick has a decent he's still better than he's the 5th best option or 6th best option this year at intermediate tracks. It's just a big drop off from where these top 4 guys are: Blaney, Larson, Byron, and Hamlin. So, and then when you look at a Reddick at this particular track in the next gen, he has the 2nd best driver rating in the next gen at this track. So I think you've got to give heavy consideration also to a Reddick who starts 4th. There's only so many of these dom points that can go around. We've got a lot of drivers up near the front, like you mentioned, that do have a shot at it. And then you've got Chase Elliott, who's probably going to be one of the most popular place differential plays on the entire slate. I like Elliott here. Now, you typically don't get winners of this race outside the top 20, starting outside the top 20. I thought his price was worth it. It's not something that's never happened. I liked Elliott at plus 2,500 in the betting markets. And he has been pretty good here. He's been pretty good this year, intermediate tracks as far as driver rating, kind of in line with where his price is. But he's had some success here in the past. He has not been any worse than 12th in the next gen outside of 2022 when he wrecked out of one of those races. But if he doesn't wreck out and that has not been the Chase Elliott MO this year. He has pretty much been finishing races. You can almost guarantee he's going to have a top 10 finish. But it will take more than it may take a little bit more than that. We'll see from Elliott, just the top 10. Obviously, I like him to win. I think top 5 upside for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be one of those things where you're kind of splitting the margins. And I think having a 3, I think min 2, right? I think min 2, obviously. I think everyone's going to have that anyway. But like min 2, but you could even look at it where if you're only playing 20 lineups, you want at least 3 of these studs. Shouldn't go understated. The playoffs just started. And, we know the cream of the crop is already. But you're going to see some really competitive races here. You're going to have guys where, I mean, hell, you can't be Larson and go DNFing again, like on the streak he was, or you just got back-to-back, 39ths or whatever. You just got to be better than that, and I think you're going to see guys be better than that. I mean, this is where, this is why the NASCAR season's too long. I really think it is, and, if a guy like Larson who's kind of racing for nothing the last half of the year, and now he's going to lock in. So, I mean, if you really kind of wanted to look at it that way, I mean, Larson could have just been playing games and, not really caring too much. I mean, you had the Indy 500 that he was really focused on as well, and his performance dipped off after that. And now I think you're going to see him lock in here, Stats, and I think that slump is going to be broken. I think this is a great place to do it. And that can be said where, look, Larson, Byron, and Hamlin are great plays. They're also 11, 10.7, and 10.5K. So XXX, when you get this, 35% hill, I do want to mention this, that, when you're in Sabre, they kind of they overproject those bottom tier drivers a little bit, right? So this is where Sabre is the best tool in the industry. And the fact that you get it through Run Pure Sports, and you can get not only the optimizer mode, but you can also get the contest sims through Run Pure Sports and, have this amazing tool that is by far the best in DFS, and no one can even compete. But it takes a little bit of finesse. It takes a little bit of user input. And for me, when I look at like slates like this, especially if I'm doing 20 lineups there, X, is that I'm bumping Timmy Hill and Derek Kraus way down. And like I know in my mind, I don't want more than one lineup of any of those guys if I'm running 20. And if I'm seeing 1-1-1 across Ware, Hill, and Kraus, I might even look at what those builds look like. Is there any way I can get to a Ty Dillon? Is there any way I can get to a Riley Herbst over those lineups? Because I think the chances that Ware, Hill, or Kraus can beat them straight up is incredibly slim. And this is where, I'm not talking about the exact race itself, but you're going to see me here, X, is that, I just bumped those guys like, way down. I think Timmy Hill ran great in the trucks race. I do want to mention that. He got top 10 in the trucks and was in my core as well, Stats. Yep. He had a great day. Like I can get on board with playing some Timmy Hill at 4,600. The problem is you won't see me leave more than 400 in a Timmy Hill lineup because, look, I'd rather have Ty Dillon 10 times out of 10, to be honest. So if I am, I'd honestly probably do this here, and then I kind of see where we're at. You got guys like Justin Haley's, kind of a little overprojected too, just because I don't think it's banking in the negative PD points as much. I think it also what they do is like, I think they overweigh crashes, like or DNFs, I would say. And I just want to kind of get ahead of that. Like I think ownership wise, let's see what the ownership wise is looking at right now. They're also real low owned. I don't know if you have the contest sims or anything like that, but it has to be because they're just slightly overprojected, and then kind of make your own like thoughts, put your own finesse into Sabre there. Stats, and you said it best, right? And this is where I kind of did want to just kind of build. You know what? Let's do this. Byron's your favorite driver, right?
I do like Byron, yeah.
All right, I'll bump him. I'll bump Elliott a lot too. All right, because I just kind of want to see where this kind of plays, and then who's the best chalk value in the mid range? It's going to be a Keselowski.
Kes, and yep.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bump those guys way up, and like this is just for the sake of just having fun on a show. I want to see what the top lineup looks like if we were just to sort it by projected score. How many of the studs do we get after buffing the mid-range of Bowman, Keselowski, bumped up Preece slightly, even though he's not in the playoffs or anything like that? Still kind of like him in this spot. And I know we haven't talked about the mid-range just yet, but I also, see Osfar here. I mean, this is it's going to be interesting. I think this is going to tell us a little bit here, Stats, about what type of builds are popping for people. So,
well, I'm also curious on X's run, how he's sorting it. And if it was done with the Sims, I kind of think it was probably run with the Sims, and those are ROIs. Where sometimes you're going to get some of the weaker drivers in there because they're going to be so unique. So it's looking at unique lineups and giving you a better ROI, which may be why you're getting a little bit more hill also.
Yeah, that would make sense. And look, I'm going to sort this by projected score. It happens to be that the top projected team is the top projected score. I mean, that's no surprise when you do it as simple as that without really having any contest in there yet. But yeah, I mean, it's a mid-tier bash with Chase Elliott and William Byron. Let's see if a lineup has Byron, Hamlin, and Elliott. There we go. It would be ranked number 49 here. And what it does, it do stats, it gives you a little Ty Dillon love, which makes sense, right? Like if you were to jam 3 studs, you're going to need at least one driver who, is very, very cheap. And Noah Gragson is also in that lineup, 6,200, starting 34th. That's the type of lineup that I can get behind. And, I'm not saying that, that's going to win or anything like that, but I am saying that like, if you're going to jam in 3 studs, it is going to take a Ty Dillon. It is going to take potentially a Timmy Hill. And you know what, stats? We'll do this too. All right, we'll just do ROI. This does it for the default $20 contest. Let's see what's popping a little bit. It's not a whole lot of Timmy Hill or anything like that, which I'm kind of surprised about. It's just we did bump up William Byron.
Well, you knocked him down a bit, so that's probably why we're not getting it there.
That is true. That's a good point. If I bumped him back up, I guarantee you he's actually going to explode in the Opto now. I didn't realize I had him still 5 points too low. I had him unchecked. I'm going to say that we're going to get some Timmy Hill now. But yeah, I mean, look, you just said it best about these studs, right? And I do think having a minimum 3 is probably a path that I will even look at if I am, just looking at a small set of lineups, right? If you're doing 150, you can't do that, but. Okay, we get one Timmy Hill lineup and it ranks inside the top 50. And look at that. Tyler Reddick is in it with Chase Elliott, Bowman, Priest. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense there. I would hope that uses all the salary. It does not. So you can actually go Ty Dillon over him there. So yeah, I mean, it's just fun to look at that type of stuff. I like to do that for NBA, especially stats is let's say there's a combo I really, really love. Well, if it's not in my top 250 lineups on the Sims, that's not a good thing. And I probably shouldn't pair that lineup or pair those players together. And I always do that, especially when I like 2 studs. Like, is it feasible to stack them together? Sometimes the answer is very much no. But if they are in the top 50 lineups, I could say yes. But I like to do that. I like that exercise there. We'll go ahead and minimize that. We'll still keep the exposures, and we'll do ROI instead. I think that'll be a good idea. Stats. I mean, this mid-range, it's good, right? I don't want to get away from that. This mid-range has, some very good drivers. You got Chastain and Bubba starting up top, which isn't the greatest. Josh Berry, kind of a throwaway. But then you kind of get into this range of Bowman and Keselowski, Hocevar and Priest, and even like Kyle Busch, if you really wanted to throw him in, if you really wanted to get it spicy. These are good plays. I mean, these are good plays in this range. We can keep it in between 7 and 9K, but overall, I mean, you're not going to get a lot of the guys in the 8K range, but the 7K range is really where you're going to make your bread. What are you doing with it here, stats?
Yeah, I mean, from let's go. Where are we going? Like 7 to 9K?
Yeah.
I want to start with Logano, who's not going to be very high owned, but I would say this, and I never like to sleep on Logano. I don't want to sleep on him here. When I feel like pitch strategy could come into play, you could see Logano being a little. It could be sneaky and just be one of those guys who, he's nowhere to be found. End of the race comes, gets on the right pitch strategy, finds his way to the winner. So while he's going to be super low, I will not be Xing him out, even though he's starting, that 14 starting position and not going to get a lot of love. Just could luck into something here. And he's been pretty good at Darlington in next gen. So he's got one of the better, I think he's got like the 5th best driver rating at this track in the next gen cars. So keep that in mind with him. But yeah, the drivers that I think most people are going to focus on, I think Keselowski here starts 32nd, has a pretty good track history. I think with the place differential, we're going to have to find some PD plays. We're looking at all those guys up at the top for down points. You look now, the interesting thing, Keselowski this season has been terrible intermediate tracks. But at Darlington, he is like the 5th best driver rating in the next gen cars at Darlington. So do you look at his history at this particular track or what he's done this season on the intermediate track? So I'd be a little bit cautious. He definitely looks like the best play, starting 32nd. typically at this track, drivers starting 30th or worse who are at least at the mid-tier and higher do find their way into the optimal more time than they don't. So I would say there's a pretty good probability, probably a 50. I would put it at about a 50% probability we get a Keselowski in the winter. But that number does scare me how poor his driver rating has been this year on the intermediate tracks. I think another guy who's going to be popular is Alex Bowman. Starts 29th. But look at his recent history here at this track. Has not been great, and he has started in the back. He started here, I think 29th or worse, somewhere in that range, like 3 times in the next gen car. I have it written down here somewhere, but yeah. So he's had a 33rd, 27th, and a 24th starting. I'm sorry, no, he started 20. He's finished 33rd, 27th, and 24th. Wait, no, I have it backwards. That's where he started, and he had not finished better than 29th in any of those races. So
that is crazy when you think about it. I mean,
yeah,
that is crazy in the car that he's got there. Barely sneaking into the playoffs too. That should be noted. I do want that to be noted. Is that I love what the Chevys did. I can't lie. When they didn't push Ryan Preece toward the win because they knew that Alex Bowman couldn't afford a new winner, which that pissed me off. Stats. When I saw Alex Bowman
we had Haley in the bets at plus 6K last week, and I mean that just came right down. I really thought he was going to win it, but
none of the guys. I think there was a little bit of gamesmanship there, especially by the Chevys. I think the Chevys knew one thing. It's just
no doubt.
Alex Bowman going out early in the first day. I know it was stupid. I just think that was just irresponsible, and
that was terrible.
I was kind of hoping he'd miss out after that. To be quite honest with you, Stats.
I agree.
But hey, he's in it. I mean, he's in the playoffs. You can't really afford it. A 29th or worse here at this point.
Well, that's and I don't know if we can necessarily build lineups certainly this week necessarily with the playoffs in mind, but I do think drivers the guys outside the playoffs will tend to stay away from drivers in the playoffs. You don't want to be the one who changes the playoff picture by wrecking someone out. When you're not in it, it's just a bad look. No one wants that to happen to them. When they're in that situation. So I think those guys get driven and raced a little bit easier from non-playoff drivers. You're going for the win at the end. That's kind of all bets are off. But I do think these guys get a little bit of a pass. So I do think drivers in the playoffs do have a little bit of an advantage of maybe probably a little higher percentage of not being wrecked out of the race.
Yeah, which that would help Alex Bowman, especially after last week. I'm still just terrorized by that because I really love that pick six, and it was just a lot of fun there. But yeah, keep going about this mid range, and Alex Bowman's clearly not performing well at this track, though.
No, he's not been. He's been good at the track. I'm sorry, he's been good at the intermediate, just not at this track. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. I think the other guy who's really interesting here is Kyle Busch starting 23rd. It's like you just want to bail on Kyle Busch, but can we bail on him at Darlington? Another guy where the split of it's very similar to a Keselowski, where he's just not had a good run this year on intermediate tracks. But his history here, Darlington next gen, has been pretty good overall. So do you trust what he's done in 2025 or his history here at Darlington? So with that 23rd start position, it's not going to be overly excessive. It'll be 25% ownership, somewhere in that range. I think Kyle Busch, if he's going to do it at any track, this would be the track. We've liked him in different spots. I liked him last week, just did not show up. But I don't think you could totally pass him up here at a Darlington. I think he's been kind of too good here historically for this price range at 8K. So I do like Kyle Busch also.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like we always say it because he's been always starting in the back lately. But yeah, I mean, you can't rule him completely out. That's just the one thing to kind of just go about it. Code RPS15, 15% off your first purchase here at Run Pure Sports. Make sure to take advantage of that going into the NFL season. Also get it for the NASCAR race tonight. The MLB a week ahead of us and everything else. If you just want it for week one, go ahead and buy a weekly pass. Try us out. See how you like it. Maybe stick around for a lot longer. We'll do a pick six here in a little bit as well. And also hit like and subscribe for us. We'd greatly appreciate that. It helps us out a lot. Thanks for watching this free content. And we'll make sure that there'll be plenty of free content as well for the other sports. And we'll make sure that when you guys like to subscribe, it's a good way to kind of keep getting that out there as well. Stats. I don't really have anything else to completely add to this mid-range. If there was
what do you think? What do you think of Busher here?
This is where I was kind of getting into that. Like, if I were to play, two studs, I think I would want someone from that Bubba Chastain Busher range, right? Where I think Chastain's going to be the odd man out, and that's not to say anything. Like, he's fine and stuff. He's 22-1. I think I'd take a chance on Bubba. I just think Bubba's got a little bit of like a newfound confidence, and that win kind of did him a lot of good. And I just think that if there's someone who could just get a top 5 and it's just kind of a quiet top 5, you saw Reddick run pretty well here early on in the season. They can kind of get a good idea of what's going to work well here, what's not. I think Bubba would be my guy over Busher and Chastain. With Busher, you talk about it, just really difficult for them. It's just, obviously the whole situation with the playoffs, right? He missed out on the playoffs, and I feel like that's just got to be deflating. I know that I'm not trying to just make things just about the playoffs and whatnot, but if I'm playing an RFK guy with Keselowski, it would make sense to stack him up with Busher, right? Where it's just kind of like, play a couple RFK guys, maybe they find the right setup, but man, I just don't know. Like, if you're Busher, how do you get up for this race, right? I just kind of question that. And, he's fine. 15th, he's going to offer a little bit more PD than anyone else in that range, and he's very comparable to Logano. I think that's where, if you really kind of summed it up. And what are his odds? 30-1 on DraftKings. It's worse than Kyle Busch, but it's better than Bowman. It's better than Cindric and stuff, who starts 10th. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst play, but I think Bubba would be my guy on that top range. What are you doing with him?
Yeah, Bubba's more like a kind of a feel. He has a pretty decent history as far as his driver rating goes. His recent history here, not the best, 21st and 16th his last 2 times out here, but 4 straight top 10s before that, which is pretty solid for Bubba. And then when you look at Busher, he's been top 10 4 out of his last 5 times out here, with one that looks like he wrecked out in 2024. So really strong finishes for both Busher and Bubba. Although Bubba, like I said, the last 2 times maybe not as good, but I liked how he looked last week. I like both of these guys probably more than the market is going to like them. I'm going to lean a little bit more Busher, I think, just because of the extra place differential. But I think Bubba can actually lead some laps here and get some down points. He's certainly in play. I think I like a lot of the guys in the top, starting in the top 10. Bubba's definitely one of them. There's a few guys we could kind of throw out, I think, as we get a little further down here. But yeah, Bubba's in the mix for me. I would have it. I like it. I like Busher, Bubba, and then Chastain. I think with if we're going to rate those 3 guys, Chastain starts 6th. He's got a similar, pretty much, it's a similar driver rating to Bubba and Busher at both 2025 intermediate and at this track in particular in the next gen. So with that starting 6th, the closer up to the front, less PD points, I would just have him as the 3rd option.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I like what you said about Brad. Obviously has been great on intermediates. His odds to win the race are really good for the price tag at 20-1, which is the best in the mid tier. That includes Chastain, that includes Bubba. That includes Logano too. So, the sports books are very high on Keselowski coming into this one, especially for the win. But also, if you just think about it from a DFS point of view, a top 15 is good enough to be in the winner. I think that's, at the end of the day, that's good enough from Brad Keselowski to be in the winner at the end of the day. And it's tough to get away from that. I'd rather Keselowski over Bowman 10 times out of 10. Bowman's going to be a guy where I've been okay always fading him. But yeah, I really like the conviction that you gave me, Stats. Is he just hasn't been great at Darlington for whatever reason. Just hasn't been great at Darlington. I'll probably be underweight on him. But if anything, like X, I like that. I like being over 50% on all the best plays. You can argue those are the 5 best plays, and you'll get combos that are going to get different around them. But those are 5 guys to be very, very good at 50% or over on, without a doubt.
Yeah.
not reinventing the wheel saying that, but
If you're doing that, then you've got to mix in some low
Timmy
owned
Hill.
plays here. Yeah. Which is fine.
Just mixing some Timmy Hill, right? Stats.
Exactly.
But I think this is going to be an interesting one, and just for people to know too, like when we got this pick 6 going here in a second, we'll get through the cheap range first. But there's going to be like just a ton of chalk, right? Where you see it with Keselowski, you see it with Bowman, you see it with the top end. Like Hamlin will probably be 50%. I think Byron comes in a little bit underowned. I think let's see what Sabre has. Yeah, Byron has him. Byron at 20% by Sabre, which I think is
he'll be more than that.
You think you know what? I guess being the 243 laps led. Yeah, I think a lot of people will see that too. Projection is very low on Sabres when they do the pool lineups. That 40 points is kind of dictating the 19%. If you were to run 5,000 completely from scratch, I think you would probably see like that pool lineup should be closer to 28 or 30%, depending on like how close you bump them up to Hamlin. But that's how they determine their ownership. Let's see some of the other ownership as well. Blaney, I don't see Blaney being 40%. Do you? Like,
Blaney
is that
40? No.
Yeah, I think it'll be 25.
Nobody starting 12th is ever 40% owned.
Yeah, that's probably the greatest rule of thumb I've ever heard. Stats. That's the greatest rule of thumb. That is so true too. Like if you were to sample all the races of a driver starting 12th and above 10K, they probably never ever approach that percentage. There's just no shot. Chase Elliott's too low owned as well. I mean, I think they'll fine tune him. Hopefully,
yeah. Elliott's got to go up. Someone mentioned Hocevar, and I mean, look, you've got the 26th starting position, so you've got a decent amount of place differential. And by the way, a lot of the place differential guys here are in the 20s typically. It's not the guys starting in the 30s because often we just don't really have top guys like a Keselowski who does start in the 30s. So I'm not saying you just throw those guys out, but typically the guys starting 30th or worse are the those sub 6K guys, and more often than not they just don't make it into the optimal lineup. Just a heads up on that. Not that it hasn't happened, not that it can't happen today, but don't get, I wouldn't be putting 2 or 3 of those guys in my lineups. But Hocevar, if you look, he's been pretty good this year, intermediate tracks, but his history at Darlington, terrible. 32nd, 33rd, 26th, and 17. So at this particular track, not great. His practice times were getting worse as the runs went longer. So I'd be cautious on Hocevar. I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership, but I'd be cautious for whoever was asking about that or liked Hocevar. Not one of my favorite plays here today.
Yeah, I like it. And you'll get a lot of them in Sabre if you don't adjust because that 34 projection is above like Priest and stuff too. So yeah, I like that. All right, stats. I don't think you kind of summed it all up. I mean, we kind of covered that from top to bottom. Let's go on to the value range. We get Ty Gibbs at 6,900, starting 16th. He's in that tweener range where it's just good enough to consider him this time. And, obviously we have a history with Ty Gibbs on this show. And that history will continue. So I think I'm going to be looking at him quite a bit at starting 16th. We got playoff driver Shane Van Gisbergen, where if you want to talk about someone who's desperate just to run 15th, if they were to get a top 20 today, they'd be so happy for the result. They banked up, what was it, 17 playoff points or something like that.
He finished 20th last time out here.
I'm not from a DFS point of view. No, you're not clicking his name at all. But like, I'm very curious to see how they do today. And I think
this has been, he's not. We know he's not great at the ovals, but this has been one of his better ones. So and you wouldn't really expect that to be the case. But we'll see. I'm always pulling for him. I know you love him, and it'll be fun to see him advance. But not for DFS purposes today.
No, I just want to play a fun game here, stats. All right, so this is just for fun, right? We can be wrong and stuff, but right now Shane Van Gisbergen built up 16 points to the cutoff line. All right, the 4 drivers who would be out right now with no playoff points, or not, based on playoff points earned throughout the regular season would be Josh Berry, Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, and Alex Bowman. All right, throw in some other guys: Austin Cindric, Joey Logano. Does SVG make it out of this round?
Oh, I'm going to say no. Yeah, I'm going to say no.
The worst part is that, then you see Bristol in 2 weeks too. It's just like, he just got to beat out. He's got to beat out Dylan. He's got to beat out Cindric. I mean, those are his races. And then Barry would be another one where you just got to beat out. And then you got to hope for some mistakes. I mean, no one's going to run clean. Like not everyone's going to run clean, I should say, throughout every race. Like what if Bowman crashed out? That'd be classic. And then what do we get? We get don't we get a road course like in the second round as well? Yeah, Charlotte Motor Speedway. So you have a very good chance of seeing him in the final 8 at the very least. So I'm kind of curious to see how they'll approach this race. From a DFS point of view, though, this range is dead to me outside of Gibbs, SVG, X, Daniel Suarez. Great run. I think it was the last time that Daniel Suarez had a great run. Still exited him out here. Austin Dillon, I didn't see that coming 2 weeks ago, that win. I'll say, you know what? Bravo to him. I completely missed the boat on that one. I mean, Zane Smith, I kind of consider, but then I'm not really interested until I get to Gragson. Starting 34th, decent talent. I'm never gonna escape from Noah Gragson's talent. I think he's just good enough, and I'll absolutely take some risk at 6,200. Nemechek's going to be probably pretty. He always comes in a little bit chalky lately. He's like been the flavor of the month for a while here, and his ownership has always been kind of double digits. And I don't think that changes here. Starting 30th, and there isn't a whole lot of options below him that really make you think. Like Gilliland is not really great. Haley starts too high. Stenhouse 35th is what it is. I mean, Ty Dillon would be like one guy that starting 31st where. Another guy who's been the flavor of the month at times. And I think, he gets up near 10%, but I don't think he'll even, I think he'll probably top out at 7, to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fun range stats because I think there's many ways to get different. There's like hardly any chalk that you can really feel great about.
No, there's not a lot of great chalk here. I think, Gragson, kind of a guy we haven't talked about a lot. I think came onto the scene on the Cup scene, at least with a lot of high expectations off the Xfinity series, but we haven't seen him at his full potential. But I think this is a pretty good, pretty good track for him. The starting position at 34th is obviously attractive, so he's going to get some ownership here. I don't mind Gragson. I think Gilliland. Look at Gilliland's finishes. I mean, he's basically right around the top 15 in almost every race here. So I think you have to keep him in mind. I mean, 14th, 17th, 15th. He had a 26th, then an 11th, 28, and 15. I believe those are all next-gen starts. So he's been comfortable here. You can almost expect a top 15 or right around 15 finish, which I don't know if that's good enough. But typically when we get sub 6K, and if we get a lot of these more expensive cars up on the top in the optimal, just moving forward could help us. So I think Gilliland is certainly a play that you're going to want to keep in the mix. Stenhouse is probably going to get some ownership. I'll give you the guy who down here that we're really not talking about. Starts 22nd. Dinger's intermediate track numbers this year have been phenomenal. His driver rating on the intermediate tracks. You look at some of the finishes. He had a fourth place finish at Charlotte. Bristol was 9th. So he's had a lot of top 10s. Homestead, Vegas, top 10s as well. So it's just not a guy. He's not starting far enough back at 22nd where a lot of people are going to be interested. I think on the off chance here, just because he's looked so good on intermediate tracks and not terrible at all at Darlington itself. I would keep AJ Allmendinger in the mix. So I think that's one that not a lot of people are talking about who could potentially find his way into the optimal.
I like that quite a bit. I mean, that's someone that, won't get owned at all. And, 6K gets you a little bit different. Has ran pretty well at times. And that's just the one thing. I mean, you talk about someone who just ran really well and, so for some reason, one or another, it's just kind of crashes out or, isn't really, he kind of starts too high at times in DFS. I mean, there's been several times where he started like inside the top 10, top 12, and you just don't really have the opportunity to click him. Starting 22nd is just like good enough to where, what if he did get a top 15? He could easily be in the winner at the 6K price tag.
I mean, he could be a top 10. He's got top 10 upside, I think, easily. So he finishes top 10. He's in the winner.
Yeah, I 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Gilliland takes is interesting too, just because, like, yeah, I mean, I guess, like, just kind of expand your horizon here a little bit, right? Like, there's no reason to X out anyone. I mean, no one outside of Gregson. Gregson's my favorite, and even like I'm not really that high on Gibbs. Like, I'm okay with them, but 63 through 7K is not really much of an interesting point for me outside of him. Outside of Gregson, though, I mean, everyone else kind of just projects the same. So why get too cute? Why thin yourself out? Why, X out all these guys when in reality, I mean, they could be key difference makers. They can be, just included in 1 or 2 lineups out of 20. Or if you're just running one lineup, and you're like, you know what? I got a feeling that Elmendinger is going to get a top 10. Click it. I mean, I think that's just, there's enough conviction, where there isn't enough conviction to go anyone else, really, is what I should say. And Gregson's the closest thing I got to it. But even Gregson's been very hit or miss at times. So, yeah, I like that.
I think the guys right at the bottom here, basically from Haley down, I think you could just X them out. I think those are straight out fades. We typically just don't see those guys make it into the optimal. So I'm going to X those guys out. I said typically if I'm going all in on a driver, that's when I want to get more diverse with the rest of the lineup. I don't think I'm going to be all in. I don't have anyone here that I really want to shove. In which case, then I've got to X out more drivers than I normally would. So that's kind of the reverse.
One more take real quick, and you can tell me I'm wrong. Don't be afraid. Ty Dillon got 16th here last race, 5,100 or 5K. Starting 31st. He had a top 16. I think that would be the one guy I would include for sure. Like, don't X out my boy Ty, because he is going to be the sneaky, like, top 20, like top 18 guy. He's done it too many times before. He'd be the only other guy, though.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think he is going to be, for sure, he'd be the highest owned of all those guys, yes, from Haley down. But if you want to leave him in, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I mean, the off chance that this thing just becomes a wreck fest, that's when these guys really become a little bit more. They've got a lot higher chance of making it into the optimal lineup. So, if you don't want to be as if you don't want to take as much risk and X a lot of these guys out. But for me, if I'm playing, if I'm not maxing out one driver, then I'm going to start Xing out a lot more. I've got to, at some point, you've got to take a stand there somewhere. So I'm going to take a stand on a lot. I just think this race tends to be a little chalky. So I'm not as afraid here to X out guys who I think, those single digit ownership type of drivers that I don't like. So I'm going to have probably more X outs than I normally do.
All right, Stats. You know what time it is?
It's time to do some Pick Six.
Yes, sir. And those who don't know, Pick Six is having one of the best promotions out there. A free shot at winning a share of $1 million. That thing's about to go to 1.05 million because we got over 50,000 entries. They're just 10,000 entries away from hitting that plus 50K to the bag. It's called the Bag Builder on the Pick Six website. Check it out, DraftKings Pick Six. It's for free. You can literally build out a 6-leg, basically picks, 6 picks. And if you get a 6 of 6, you get to split $1 million with the rest of the others who also split 6 of 6. That thing could be very, very high if some of the chalky picks fail. So I'm kind of curious to see what the payout will be there. One of my favorite picks this upcoming week will be Chico Okonkwo over more than 30.5 receiving yards. That's one of my picks there in my Bag Builder. And we also got it for NASCAR, which we're going to get into now. We're going to do a 6 pick 6 here. Stats. Let's go ahead and get into it. We'll start out with, one leg and we'll alternate. So those who are playing, be sure to take advantage of any promos you have. I know last time they had a 25% boost or something like that. Doesn't look like they have one today for NASCAR though. Nothing for NASCAR today. No. What do you got for your stats?
Let's start. I mean, this is a guy I'm betting to win, so I'm going to take him on his fantasy points to the more, and I'll go with Chase Elliott here, 48.5 more. I think he's just got to stay clean, which obviously has been his strong suit, and he'll have a pretty solid finish here. I like Elliott.
I like it. And real quick, Stats. We also got a DFS question here. Stats and Rubio, if playing 100 lines, how many guys would you X out? And I know, Rubio, you X out guys in your 20, but what about back to 100 lines? Real quick, Stats, I'll go ahead and just input, like, I think the more lineups you do, the less likely you should be to X out guys completely. All right. That's just the reality of it. However, I guarantee you stats, what he just said, is Xing out, I would say, probably Custer, Herbst, Ware, Hill, and Ware, Hill, and Kraus. I mean, that's just the one thing, but I don't think you get too keyed above that. That's I'll let stats speak here. Just
well, as SBG,
yep.
Suarez, Austin Dillon, probably going to X those guys out. It's really it's dependent on the
yes,
on the race. Cindric starting 10th, I probably don't want any of. It's going to be race dependent. Josh Berry starting 3rd. I just can't see him with
I
a
would say
stronger finish.
upwards of like 12 to 14 guys if you're being really aggressive, and if you're just kind of being normal. Like, at that point, like SVG, like you said, like 100%, right? Then it's like kind of getting into these like fringe range where it's like, I really, I really don't like Chastain today, but you can leave him in because you're not going to get much. But like Barry would be a guy where you're just like Xing out,
Right.
where, like it's just one of those things. I think it's very slate dependent, but yeah, you at least X out like almost a quarter of the field, even a third at times.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to depend on how you're building your lineup. So, like I said, if you're going to get heavy with, if you've got a real strong conviction with Denny Hamlin or a Byron or an Elliott, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to be 75% plus on 2 of these guys. Well, then you don't want to X out as many drivers. Then you want to open it up a little bit because you're looking to get some more combos and hopefully hit a combo of, someone, probably won't be a Josh Berry, but one of these guys at the bottom who just kind of moves up. There's some wrecks late in the race, and then they move. They were running 30th all day, and they finished 20th, and they wound up in the winner. So, that is kind of how I play it. So that's why I'm saying today I'm probably going to I'll be graying out a few more of these guys than I normally do.
Yep, I like it. All right,
and then check out the slate builder, right? The lineup builders that we have over at, and you'll see the fades. I don't know how you do in my 150. My fades are typically, if I own them less than 5%, I put them in as a fade on that sheet. So just to let you know how I do it.
That's a great point. Yeah, we have our fades, and that is very much inclined to sometimes, like, depending. I think most of the time, it's just based on saber ownership and like what in my system in terms of like what my exposure is. And if I literally have 0% of a guy, like it's a fade on the playbook. So yeah, check that out. Stats, you went over 48.5 Chase Elliott fantasy points for this race today. That's our first pick of the pick 6. I am going to go an under here. It's not my happiest under, but I think I'm going to do it. I think it's going to be Tyler Reddick under 14.5 fastest laps. Again, fastest laps don't exactly correlate to laps led. I do like this a little bit more, despite leading 42 laps last time. Reddick only had 22 fastest laps, right? I think it takes a lot of clean air for that to happen. He could lead 30 laps, and I still don't think this is going to hit. His laps led prop is 22.5. I think that this is one of my unders. I really wanted to come in here with a focus on going less than a few picks here, stats, and less than 14.5 fastest laps for Tyler Reddick is one of them.
I like that one. I mean, I looked at that, and I looked at it like going in with the mindset of, oh, can he get over that number? Like, and which is the total square way to look at this. And by the way, and I'm not knocking everyone on here, but almost the reason that you just mentioned that you like to take the unders or the less thans is because most people look at the more thans.
Yes.
Because you're like, oh, I like this guy, I like this guy, I like this guy. So we want to kind of get off because they're dividing it by how many people hit the correct.
Your multiplier based on the payout is, if you held hands with 100 other people, then you would get no multiplier. You just get the minimum payout. But if you cut off the arm of the guy standing next to you and you're standing there, the only guy to get a 6 of 6 out of 100 people, your multiplier can be huge. So it's definitely, again, it's peer-to-peer. It's peer-to-peer gaming. So definitely don't be afraid to take stands against very chalky picks. And NFL, that'll be a huge factor. When you guys start to do those shows, especially for the showdown, there will be many paths that are just very clear overs, but it could be an easy leverage situation if you go the under on some of those. So yes, that's pick number 3.
All right, I'm going to go with I'll go with a less than, and
like it.
Unfortunately, it's not a guy who's going to get a lot of ownership either, but he starts up near the front. I'm going to go with a Chase Briscoe less than the 40.5. Just for me, I just don't like his history here in the next gen at Dart. Now I know he's won, but overall his driver rating has been poor. despite the first and the fifth place finish. So outside of those two finishes, really hasn't done well. So I'm going to look at it on the whole and say he doesn't get back to the form of last year's race where he's the defending champion here. And starting second, I think he's going to have to lead some laps, obviously with a strong finish. I say Briscoe outside the top 10, and we get the less than for him, 40.5.
So Stats took that one right out from under me. I love it. That was going to be my next pick. Was going to be Chase Briscoe under 40.5 fantasy points. So again, the first three picks are Chase Elliott over 48.5 fantasy points, Tyler Reddick less than 14.5 fastest laps, and Chase Briscoe less than 40.5 fantasy points. Well, since I had two unders lined out, they're both taken off the board now. I'm actually going to go another direction here, and we're actually staying with the fastest laps. So in case you were wondering, like, why the hell would I do that? I really, really like Denny Hamlin fastest laps over. So if you look at the two guys who led a lot of laps last time, it was William Byron. He had 87 fastest laps, led 243. It's okay. It's all right. It's nothing special. When you're running a clean air, you're going to get that. I think Denny Hamlin runs in clean air for a significant portion of this race. I think that you could even go the laps led. I'm going to toss this to you. Do you think laps led 80.5 or fast laps 40.5 is better? Because I was in between.
I looked at both of these, and I wasn't sure. I wound up passing on both of them. I kind of like the laps led.
Let's do laps led. I'm gonna pivot because I'm looking at it right now because I'm looking at some of the stats here and stuff. He isn't much of a fastest lap guy. All right, like I think it's just kind of the one thing I'm just trying to think. So laps led, we'll do 80.5 laps led.
I mean, he should get out in front, and a guy like if you get out in front, you can save tires by because it is hard to pass. But if he gets behind, when he's not out front, he's never going to lead any fastest laps.
You're right. I think laps led is going to be the better route there, and we get it on pole. I think that'll be Denny Hamlin going to be back in big. He's got a teammate right by him too, so it shouldn't be much of a struggle to get out into the lead here. They should kind of coordinate. You'd hope. Not that Briscoe is going to give him anything, but I think that you'll see Hamlin and get the lead early and then hold it. And we'll go 80.5 laps led more than. All right, Stats. Last one for you.
The guy I really like here is Byron. So I'm going to take Byron's fantasy points to the more 51.5. Just been really, really good on this track as well as intermediate tracks all year. Outside of that 30th place finish in this race last year, he has not finished worse than 8th going back to 2022. A first, second, fourth, sixth mixed in there as well. So I like Byron, really strong finish here, and I like him to win. So I've got him in the betting markets. Might as well take him in the pick 6 over the 51.5 fantasy points.
I love it. We got it there. We got more than 51.5 fantasy points for William Byron. Last one of the picks here. Now we're going to go with a finishing position. I'm feeling good about going finishing position here. Let's see. I gotta kind of feel this one out here, Stats. Right, you're digging into the bottom of the barrel here. Let's see. Pick number 6. Oh man, here it is. I'm gonna go with worse than Chris. 11.5 finishing position for Chris Buescher. I think top 12 is it's okay, right? Like we like him. He's okay for DFS, but I'm looking at all these guys ahead of him, like. Not that there's expected to be a ton of carnage, but you got Hamlin, Byron, Larson, Blaney. You throw in Bell, Reddick, Elliott, and stuff. It's like the name's starting to run out. There's only a few spots left for a guy to kind of get like a 10th, 11th, 12th. And I'm going to go with worse than 11.5. A guy who's coming off. He's going to be deflated. He didn't make the playoffs. He's going to be like, just kind of underwhelmed coming into this race. We're going to catch him when he's least expecting it. Worse than 11.5 finishing position for Chris Buescher. We'll go over the full pick 6 now. Over 40, more than 48.5 fantasy points for Chase Elliott, less than 14.5 fastest laps for Tyler Reddick, less than 40.5 fantasy points for Chase Briscoe, more than 80.5 laps led for Denny Hamlin, more than 51.5 fantasy points for William Byron, and worse than 11.5 finishing position for Chris Buescher. All right, that can be $20 to win $360. That's without the multipliers as well. Submitting it now here, Stats, and if it wins, we'll do a giveaway. Don't put it into the live show chat. Wait until the show ends and comment who you think wins the race and get and put the fantasy score next to their name. if someone gets it within 2 or 3, we'll give away some gear to people who get it right. All right, Stats, any parting words?
That's it, man. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your last day of no NFL for quite some time.
Oh boy, yes, enjoy it. Goodbye from Stats and I. Have a good one, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.